All right, everybody. So welcome back to another episode of Colton Posey Fishing. So today we're going to be talking about fishing post-frontal conditions during the post-spawn. So if you're like where I'm located in this part of the country, or wherever you may be, you may have experienced those spring storms, a lot of rain, a lot of stuff coming through, and it's kind of put the fish in the funk because we had the temperatures drop, what we call down here in the south blackberry winter, and then it warms back up. So we just went over a few days where it's like 50 to 60 degrees, and then now all of a sudden it's back up in the 80s and it's extremely warm. So we're going to be talking about all that stuff, some baits you can throw, and some areas that you can go to locate these fish. So stay tuned. This is something you definitely don't want to miss. All right, guys, so let's talk about the post conditions and stuff like that, some baits you can throw. So today we're up on a specific lake that we haven't fished, and I haven't fished in a long time. I don't think the guy that's with me has ever fished it before, but either way, it's a lot different. So we're having to find fish that we're not accustomed to chasing. So this is a spotted bass and largemouth fishery predominantly, especially spotted bass towards the main lake, and then your a largemouth kind of mixed in between the creeks and the main lake also. So the areas that you would typically try to focus on, especially in these post-frontal conditions, you got to understand if it's 2 or 3 days after the post-front condition, then most of the time these fish are kind of going to be pushed out in the ditches and they're going to be suspended. They're not going to be very, very active. They'll be more lethargic, but they'll sometimes, instead of pushing up to the spawn locations or their travel areas that they're typically on the secondary points and the coves and cuts and stuff like that, they're typically going to be kind of in those same areas, but they're kind of going to be suspended more towards the ditch of the creek, so the middle of the creek out in the open where your boat typically is. Now, days like today, we're fishing, pretty far past the front. So let's see here. Day before yesterday, it was cold. The winds finally settled down a little bit. We've still got maybe 3 to 5 mile an hour winds, so it's not horrible or anything like that, but it's kind of calm, and that's typically when people have an issue trying to find the fish and catch the fish. And the good news is most of the time they're going to be closer up to the areas where you expect them to be, so closer to the banks and the secondary points and areas like that you would typically focus on. The hardest part is figuring out what they want to eat. So, during the spring, they're really trying to fatten up after the spawn. They're beat up, they're wore out. The largemouth getting a real funk. The spotted bass, not necessarily. They'll kind of, just drop their eggs and they're real active again. And they really go to chase and shad and stuff like that. With that all being said, understand that with the spotted bass, you're going to catch more fish with the spotted bass. The largemouth can be more tricky, but usually target them with crawfish patterns or shad patterns. Your spotted bass will either or, but they're typically going to focus more on the shad pattern. So your spinner baits, your swim baits, things like that is going to be your most dominant type baits for the spotted bass. Largemouth, it can be a little bit different. So your creature baits, your Texas rigs and stuff like that, especially if they're beat up real bad. If they're beat up real bad, the largemouth become real lethargic. But those later on 2 to 3 days when the wind finally starts to calm down, you got a little bit of cloud cover like we do today, a little bit of sunshine popping through, kind of back and forth. Those are going to be great times for you to say, hey, these fish are going to move up on the banks and they're going to be really actively feeding. And that's we haven't been here that long, made probably 6 casts right off the bat, got 3 fish in the boat. All 3 were spotted bass, but either way, they're pushed up, they're active. It's a great time to get out on your lake and focus on those areas that you typically expect the fish to be and just hone in on that stuff. Your moving baits, you're going to find fish a lot quicker. Once you find the fish, you can stay there and pick them off, or you can just keep moving, looking for bigger size or whatever you may be looking for. But that's a huge key feature for post-frontal, post-spawn fish. So, guys, either way, if the video helps you, make sure to like, subscribe for more content. If you subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way, every time I post a video, you're notified. I post every Friday, 6 a.m. Sometimes we drop a video in between, something like that. Just depends on what's going on. But also, we got members only. So if you're interested in that, $2 a month, you get my content early. You also get to ask your questions early. I can get right to it, get it, nipped out of the way. If you can do it, great. If you can't, it's great either way. I appreciate you stopping by, and I'll see you next time.